Good evening, St. Louis, and welcome into the City Central postgame right here on STL Sports Central. I'm Matthew Rocchio, that's Will Bratton, and we're brought to you by our good friends at DraftKings Sportsbook, where the crown is yours. And unfortunately, we're talking to you tonight from another St. Louis City L. They fall to 3-6-11 in MLS play thanks to a 1-0 loss. The offense listless, completely dominated for a lot of parts of the game by the Dynamo to a tune of 2.5 expected goals to 0.31. That is officially the third worst offensive performance by St. Louis City on the season. The head coach bump, which happened for one game, has officially completely died on the vine. St. Louis City is now winless in their last four, including 3 of those being just full-on losses. It's tough right now with St. Louis City, and after Wednesday's match, when we were talking all about the defense being problematic, all we're talking about tonight is a bad offense and a little bit of a flub by the defense. Will, your first thoughts on a disappointing match for St. Louis City SC?
Yeah, I mean, for me, JGR and Wenzel were a lot better than expected, to be honest. I think Joey and Zielinski had
probably the biggest
a decent
positive
match. Yeah, that is definitely the biggest positive, especially knowing that there's going to be changes in the roster in terms of center backs and defenders of that such. So this match for me was really just a good telling sign that a lot of changes are coming and they're justified. And we know this. we've known this. And I think Lutz would have everybody coming for his neck even more than they already are if there weren't a lot of changes made this summer. But that's my number one takeaway from this match is, I mean, you're seeing your difference makers, your high value players. Ustrak is making like 9th most on the team or something like that. You have Toy Shirt and these types of players. Jande Silva has a pretty fat paycheck, to be honest with you, for the 20 minutes he's played in this year, it feels like. So you have a whole lot of money invested in a whole lot of nothing, and then you're not getting any value out of those higher paid players. So changes are necessary and they're coming. That's my number one takeaway.
That's a great point, because if we're going to talk about anybody who played well, it's going to be players who are pretty far down the salary list,
right?
When it comes to the defenders who stepped up, despite Berkey, who's always solid. Samuel Howe, he's trying to find himself a positive. Look, the goal differential is getting smarter. And if you're watching the show, please jump into the YouTube chat. If you have questions, you have comments, any kind of thought you have from St. Louis City SC, go ahead and throw it in the chat right now. We'll talk about it. And also make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the bell button. Make sure you are going to be notified anytime that STL Sports Central is going live. You can also subscribe to our newsletter, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can follow us on socials at STL Sports Central. Samuel Howell also saying, good old Will, you can always find one positive. And listen, there are some positives to take away. The fact that Michael Wenzel stepped up and had a game like that, that JGR, the youngest player on the full senior roster, also had a great game playing in a center back spot. That was pretty impressive. Joey Zielinski, the card wasn't ideal, but I thought he had a pretty solid first half plus. Jay Reed, not so much. But overall, there are some positives to take away from that game. We don't have to be completely doom and gloom about that one. We got to find something that isn't complete crap to talk about. Even the goal they gave up, Wenzel and JGR are 2 of the only players actually trying. So, right. I mean, that is something to write home about from this game. Doesn't mean anything in the long run, potentially, but it might mean something if you have, 2 young center backs or center defensive midi in the case of JGR who can actually be MLS plus players. That's important to the roster build going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. JGR, one of only 3 players on the St. Louis City SC roster to finish or one of the only starters, I guess I should say, to finish above a 7.0 SOFA score rating, finished with 7.2. Berkey finished with a 7.6, mostly inflated by the big save he had at the end. I think boosted him like 0.4 or something like that. Joao Klaus finished with a 7.4. Akil Watts actually finished with a 7.1, which kind of surprises me a little bit. Tomas Ustrak also finished with a 7.1. He didn't have much impact, if any, on that match. So I think those are more of, they didn't screw up. So they didn't get, or Tomas Ustrak at least didn't screw up. So he didn't get bumped down on the SOFA score ratings. Not that that is the most important thing in the world, but you want to see JGR get a little bit of a reward
I thought he was
statistically for
solid.
that. So that's the only reason I'm even bringing this up, is because I want to highlight the young Australian out there putting in a good shift, had a little bit of a cramp, continued to play. Like, you just want to see those types of performances from your young players, especially on a U22 contract in general. So I was happy with his performance for sure. People I'm not happy with: Cedric Toysher, John De Silva. Yeah. Akil Watts, I wasn't very happy with. Unfortunate for Alfredo Morales, who, by the way, came out in a sling.
What the hell's my hair getting? That's the one thing I have, Amy. You can't come after my hair. It's the one thing I have in this world. How dare you? I'm not always negative. I'm realistic. This team sucks. Am I supposed to say something differently? Get out of here. Sorry. What were you saying about somebody not sucking?
I think I was saying somebody did suck.
Oh, okay.
I was talking about Toysher, Silva. Let's see who else. Oh yeah, I was about to say Morales.
Marcel Hartle
came back. Yeah, Hartle was pretty obsolete in that match. I mean, he hardly was on the ball, didn't do anything productive, didn't do anything counterproductive. But you need your highest paid player on the team to be productive at all times in any given match. Alfredo Morales came back to the bench in the second half, arm in a sling. So we thought it was a neck injury.
Great.
We thought it was a neck injury. He walks off the pitch holding here. It's not a neck injury. His arm's in a sling. What does that make you think, Rock?
Yeah, I think
makes you think collarbone.
Yeah,
no confirmation.
I think we're probably not going to see Alfredo Morales, which is why, and I know Morales getting hurt is going to exacerbate it. But if you guys weren't able to catch Boots on the Ground live yesterday on the Lou Information Station, you can go back and podcast it wherever you get your podcasts or at louinfo.com. But we were talking about the needs for this team, and I had 6 defensive midfield as my number one need. And I think today was another great example as to why that's so high on my list, because I know it's been exacerbated by now potentially an Alfredo injury, Leuven's unavailability, and Durkin's injury as well. But still, it's just such an important part of the position. No soccer team's ever won having a bad midfield for the most part, and City's not going to get very far with the midfields they've been playing the last few games, and so that's why I'm still adamant that's got to be a place for reinforcements.
Yeah, I completely agree, and that's why, for me, number one on the list is still a right winger. I mean, besides a left back, because you're literally losing one in Horn, you have to get another. You have one left back on the roster, so you kind of have to do that. But in terms of like upgrades and things like that, I'm looking at right wing, because the right side of the pitch all season has been completely underused. It's a lane that City don't attack very well, very effectively. It's not defensively reliable. When Tots is the only option there, and then Betcher's the one covering for him, you're already going to have problems, because Betcher's not going to be covering. He's going to be high up the pitch. And that's, the type of thing we've seen on that right-hand side numerous times. Of course, Zielinski offers a little bit more stay at home. His average field positioning wasn't quite as high as Tots usually is, although actually he did finish pretty high compared to his previous matches.
I think that, like, to your point, that has to happen because of what they're doing with the attacking four, where Bescher's getting forward so much. Although I haven't looked actually at Bescher's. Pull up Bescher's heat map. What are we looking at here?
That's
actually, I would off the top of my head, I would probably say that is the most right wing profiled Bescher we've seen maybe this entire season. He really was not cutting in and doubling over as a secondary striker. Maybe that's why they didn't have a shot in the first 45 or 48 minutes of the freaking game. But that was a more out wide Bescher than usual. Again, maybe that was the problem. Again, I'm not saying they don't need a right winger. My point is that just think about the bodies they have available to put in spots. And right now, we're seeing the shortage they have in the lack of versatility, because even the players like Marcel Hartle, you cannot put Marcel Hartle in the double pivot anymore. And it's not even a factor of how it hampers your offense. He refuses to get stuck in on ground duels. He refuses to contest the ball. There were a couple times tonight where he just kind of ran past the ball while a Houston player was possessing it, because he just didn't want to get into the play. That can't happen for his positioning, and what this team needs from their center middies. So when you just think about the bodies they have, again, Pompeu can play the right wing. Makai Joyner, once they change his contract so that sixth appearance doesn't end his season, Makai Joyner can play the right wing. I mean, Simon Besher, again, it's different, but the way it works, I think I like the way that it works, and that it's a 4-4-2 in rest defense, it's a 4-2-3-1, and then he gets forward. I'm completely okay with it, especially because Klaus is comfortable with getting to the right wing to win balls, and that means Besher can then slide over to the central striker position after that. So I'm okay, because they have bodies at right wing. And also you do have to factor in, I know Abo's been big about this on Twitter as well. He says DP right winger, multiple center mids, including a U22. I've now discovered another reason that I wish MLS didn't have these stupid freaking roster rules, so that fans could stop referencing them like they're the end all be all. Like it is a failure if a certain player in position doesn't have the DP tag. I'm so annoyed by it. It's stupid as hell. You want to get a right winger, fine, but a good right winger is going to cost double what a good center mid is going to cost. That's another factor, is because of how this positioning works, is forwards and wingers are always going to cost more money relative to their talent level to the average position than a center mid or a center back or a left back. So that's the other factor in this ranking tier when we talk about the shopping list, because who cares about this game? We've already moved on to the football offseason. That's what else we have to talk about from that game, 0.30 XG. That's why I'm prioritizing that way, because I think you have to, because I get what we want. I would love a DP right winger. I'd love more punch. But when you just think about how you have to spin it from the perspective of Critch, Hack, and Lutz, we need bodies that can effectively win us MLS games. And right now they do not have the bodies to do it in the center mid. They conceivably, in different parts, they have it to do. They can do it on both flanks. They can't do it in the midfield right now.
I disagree with you. I think they have way more bodies in the central midfield that are MLS ready players.
If everyone's healthy.
Yes, when healthy, right.
But we never know if Leuven's going to be available.
That's true.
And the thing is that
Durkin will be back next week. They did say.
And the point is here about positional flexibility. Durkin, if you do have more middies than you need, Durkin can play center midi, or Durkin can play center back.
Right.
Like, you don't have that cross flexibility to take guys and move them into center mid and have them be MLS level players. We're seeing that right now. They don't have the ability to. And so my point is you have a lot more guys who can conceivably play MLS average level play at right wing than you do who can sub in and play center midi. And that's my entire, it's just a numbers game for me. And especially with the lack of availability on Leuven, and the fact that Leuven's availability isn't just a rest and recovery that we know, 3 weeks, come back from your hamstring, you're fine. We don't know when Leuven's coming back. And so the fact that that's so unknown as well, I think it also changes things going forward with how you rank those positions. And then also the money factor is big for me.
Yeah.
Because you can get a center midi and a left back for the price it'll take to get that right winger. And potentially, but I'm just saying standardized, it always costs you a little bit more to get those offensive players.
Yeah. No, I mean, a left back, you got to get a left back. Obviously, Giannis Horn traveled with the team, was on the bench, which was odd to me. Obviously, he's gone in 2 days. He's going over to Austria in about 2 days. So I'm
surprised, maybe just like, hey, instead of having to play Watts at left back, and let's play Giannis Horn for 10 minutes.
Right.
It's a good little send off.
Yeah. I think
help us get a final point.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. But you got to get another one. Jay Reed's only left back on the roster. You have right backs. You have Zielinski and Totland. So you're fine good there.
You got two bodies. I'm fine.
Right. Center backs, you're fine in terms of on the roster, but in terms of health, you're not fine. So you kind of, I don't know. It's a weird situation with the center backs. For me, it depends if Chris Durkin and JGR are both going to be like healthy and available for the rest of the season versus getting injured again. Obviously, Wenzel also was dealing with an injury at the start of the season. Worked his way to finally getting a start, given all the injuries tonight. But, you might have options at center back. But I think a 6, knowing that Leuven is potentially not there for the season, that is an important place to look in the summer window for sure. I also think if you can find that right winger, you got to do it in the summer window and let them assimilate into this team so you can hit the ground running in 2026 and already have that foundation built.
Let's just play Mekhi Joyner.
I'm not on let's just play Mekhi Joyner train. I don't want him being the starter.
Why not?
Because he's 18. He's not ready to be an MLS starter. You can throw him out there and throw him to the Wolves and he might succeed. And that would be great. But I don't think he will. It's not a knock on him. He's just not ready.
18-year-olds hit the ground running in soccer leagues all across the world. I don't know if just him being 18, like I just my point, like does he
with his skill set,
does he have the physical profile to break down MLS defenders? I'm not like I just got like we'll do like yes or no.
I mean, I don't think he's there yet. I honestly don't.
Because
I think he's very close. I think he's there in a year.
We've seen him do it.
Yeah, but I don't think he's there on a consistent basis. Obviously, he can do it.
Know.
we haven't kind of know.
We don't know.
We watch him play with City too.
Chance. Yeah, and he dominates.
Yes,
Joey Zielinski was literally only training with the first team, getting zero time, and clearly he's shown that he's at least an MLS, borderline MLS average player at worst. And my point is, and that's a guy who hadn't shown anything. You got to give him a chance. He's clearly shown with the 5 call-ups and appearances that when he trains with the first team, he trains to MLS level. When you have a guy who's moving up the United States men's national team youth ranks, that clearly shows peer level. He's one of the tops of his peer level as well. So it's like, yeah, he's an 18-year-old, but he's one of the best 18-year-olds in this country.
No, I'm not saying that he shouldn't. So let me be very clear. He should be getting a supplemental roster slot on the first team roster. He should not be off roster anymore in the summer, as soon as the window opens, or even maybe before, maybe as soon as this coming week, especially given the injuries that this team has. He should be getting that roster slot and should be training with the team. My point is that, and obviously that means until the summer window, maybe he's your starter right winger. I don't really care about that. My point is that you need to be bringing in a serious level talent at the right wing, either this summer or this winter, because Mekhi Joyner is not ready to be your starting winger going forward. He should be in that secondary role, able to sub on and get the minutes that he needs to develop and prove that he's ready for that position. Then you give him a new contract. And what is his contract run through? 2028? Let me look really quickly.
Yeah,
his contract runs through 2028.
Yeah,
so in 2028, you decline his 2029 option and you give him a new homegrown contract, and then he's your starting right winger. But you need a 3-year or 2.5-year DP right winger, or maybe somebody that can also, the right winger maybe can also play the 10 or something like that, so that they can go to that position afterwards. You need somebody to fill that gap, because if you throw Mekhi Joyner into the Wolves, it's going to stunt his growth. I promise you it will do that. There, not many players are capable of just making that jump like right away. And Joyner is not, he's dominating in MLS Next Pro, but he's not, in my opinion, at least, not at the level yet where he can just immediately translate to MLS play and be consistently good. He'll have good moments. He will play well. He's not going to get absolutely destroyed all the time or anything like that. But he's not ready to be a starting right winger for me until like 2027, 28.
That record is the record of a team that plays super promising 18-year-olds for 60 minutes, because why the hell not? You're not doing anything else this season. It's a wash, ladies and gentlemen. I don't care if it's mathematically possible for them to get to 45. Look at the offensive production they just put out against Houston. It was a 0.331 XG, and it was 0.00 at the true 45-minute mark. That record, 3-6-11, that's the team that should be pushing the envelope. Yeah, listen, if he looks overwhelmed in that first start, then yeah, you pull him back. I'm not saying you say Mekhi Joyner's our starter, next 12 games, go out and get there. But my point being, with giving him the chance and everything I've been saying, is that if he doesn't work out, you still have the bodies to pull off you still have the bodies to fill that spot. And it's not like this matters. And again, the thing I need to keep factoring in here is I don't think we're looking at more than $3 million probably spent this summer. And so I don't think you're getting a designated. I don't think you're getting a DP.
We'll see.
I don't think you're getting a DP right winger, a guy, because that profile is. I just don't think $3 to $4 million is getting that done. That's my other part. Is just the realism of. I'm not saying they're not going to bring in a right winger, and I'm not saying the right winger won't be the biggest move they make. Right. But I do think already tacking on those 2 letters, which I can hate, is clouding the argument in both of our cases. And we let Abbo do that. Damn you, Abbo. Mo Football TV. He is too good for MLS Next Pro. Play him or let him play elsewhere. Let's not go full like European loan his ass. That's not how this works. I just say play him.
You got to keep your homegrown.
I'm with you on that one, Mo Football. I'm very confused.
Let him sub Betroff every game.
Yeah,
Put him on the roster.
Listen,
Let him sub Betcher off in the 65th minute on that right wing slot every single match until the summer window opens, or maybe even give him a start if Betcher's tired. And then when the summer window opens, if you find the right winger, you get it. If you don't, then that's fine. You still have Betcher and Joyner to play that role. I'm just saying the right winger, if you want to be a serious team in 2026, you got to fill that spot because Betcher is not your starting right winger. I don't care what anybody says. He doesn't have the touch. He doesn't have the pace. He doesn't have the dribble to do that. He should be your secondary striker or your super sub. Nothing more, nothing less. That's what he's good at.
He has a top 10 ball receiving number in the entire MLS.
Ball receiving.
Yeah, you can have a different profile at right wing. Like you don't like right wing is not. This is what a right wing is.
Dude, the eye test.
You can do a lot of different things at right wing. He runs and presses and he gets behind the back line. That can be a right wing profile. It might not be specifically in this system.
In a 4-3-3. He can be a right wing forward. Sure,
a 4-2-3-1 is a 4-3-3. Like
I hate, but like, it's not though. At the same time,
it can be. But I'm pointing is it can be. Like you can't just box yourself in. You have to. Like David Critchie said it himself. You have to build the system around the players you have. And listen to the point earlier about why do they have Simon Bescher? It's because again, his ability to get behind the line and get the ball to his feet is top 10 in the MLS, and they're getting that for pennies. That's why they have him, because it was cheap to get him. It's cheap to have him on the roster.
$180,000 to buy Letcher's.
He's not finishing, but if he was finishing at his career or just a league average level, he'd have 5 more goals. The season would look pretty different. Your perception of Simon Bescher would be very different. And I'm not saying he wouldn't still be playing out of position. He still would be playing out of position, but
that's my problem.
And that's fine. But I just think you can't. Boxing players in happens too much in a game that is so free flowing and there's so much movement, and there's too many times in this sport where we've seen players who don't have traditional profiles be able to play at a position we don't normally see them as. And a lot of the times and for me, it pisses me off. One of them is when people are like, well, he's not fast enough to play that position. And it's like, do I have to cite the amount of times we've seen players who don't have elite speed be able to play certain positions? And it's like, yeah, in certain systems that anomalous player won't work, i.e., a slow center back in this system, because you got to run 45 yards, baby. Sorry about you. But
Pencil and JGR.
And the other point that we've kind of forgotten is Pompey is comfortable playing on the right side as well.
You can.
It's not as, and honestly, I wonder after the last 2 games, if playing Pompeo on the right side might be like a way to force him into some better tendencies, because he has had 2 bad games in a row. He lost a crazy amount of possessions today. I don't think he had a successful dribble. And it's just, and honestly, I might be being too hard on a player, because that's one of those positions, that guy who gets out there and has those 1v1s. When it looks good, it looks incredible. When it looks bad, it looks super bad. There is no middle ground. And so maybe that's just us reacting to a shift, but he has had 2 bad games.
You want to hear it?
Yeah, go for it. 12 possessions lost?
9 possessions lost, 1 attempted dribble, 0 successful. He was 55% passing accuracy.
How many passes?
Only 26 touches, 11 attempted passes.
Okay, see, 55% passing is bad. 55% on 11 passes is terrible. That's horrendous. He had 8 possessions lost at halftime. So the fact that he only lost the ball once, and how many minutes did he play in the second half?
15, I think. When did he come off?
Not great, not terrible. Anyhow, Pompey was another guy who's comfortable with the ball on both sides.
He played 22.
His feet. And again, Mekhi Joyner is the same way. They would rather be left wings, because their natural tendency as goal scorers in right-footed players is to cut inside to their right foot. Hello, put him in an orange jersey. It looks a little bit like the Netherlands.
What?
Those are the SOBs who popularized inverted wingers. It was the Netherlands team of the early 2000s. Wesley Sneijder, the other bald son of a bitch who's super fast, Arjen Robben. Thank you. I was going to remember the name if you didn't. Those guys, like the methodical way that Robben and Sneijder would just get the ball, cut into my strong foot, let's go. It was Robben, I think, would be on the right side, cut into his left, and Sneijder would be on the left side, cut into his right. They were like the first team that was like, let's just play 2 inverted goal scoring wingers and see what the hell happens. And it worked pretty well. Ask Brazil. That makes Brazilians cry, and that makes me laugh.
Klaus and Pompey are going to come for your neck.
They will. Yeah, that's not who I want coming
Maybe
for my
we
neck.
need a Dutch player.
Well, as long as Pompey is coming for my neck 1v1, I'll be fine. Hey-o! He's had a bad week. So that and we got a lot into the shopping cart that I didn't expect, but we had this debate just the other day, and we're not getting over it. The bottom line is, I think the important part that we should be focusing on is that we both agree with what the top 3 is.
Right.
Of what?
Maybe
what,
not in the order. But,
we have very different orders, and we're looking at it in different ways. So we're both saying we know what the top 3 is: six right winger and left back. Mo Football says history made for Mexico. Gilberto Mora becomes the youngest player ever to debut in an official match for Mexico at 16 years old and 257 days. That was in the Gold Cup match for Mexico earlier today. I think that might have been pointed to you.
Oh yeah, because he's a young player.
Yes, he's a young
anomalies
player
are always going to exist. Look at
Makai's an anomaly.
Lamine Yamal. Is Makai Joyner Lamine Yamal? No, he will never be.
I didn't say that. I didn't say.
I mean,
you said
there's always going to be anomalies. There's always going to be anomalies. It's not necessarily fair to say, "Oh, look at what this one kid is doing."
No, but
clearly Makai Joyner can do it too. That's not how it works.
It is fair to give 18-year-old prospects a chance when they're the leading scorer in the only other league that they can play in. Like that's my other thing. Is
I get that, and I want him to get the chance. I'm just saying he's not your starting right winger in the immediate future. Like,
you think this team is a lot better than they are?
I think
you got a high bar for a team with 3 wins, my guy. You got a high bar.
Sound like you said Makai.
Oh God, get out of here. This is ridiculous. We need a talisman right wing. I mean, I thought we needed a talisman 9 a month ago, but apparently we have that still, I guess. Toy Shirt is the elephant in the room. What do you guys think we should do to get that guy going?
That's a good question, to be honest.
Play him off the bench, not in the role you have him now. His bench spot should be, notice how Klaus is playing full 90s all of a sudden. His bench spot, I'm just saying it's odd. His bench spot should be subbing in.
Saying not under Melberg.
Like he subbed out. I think he subbed out of the first Critch win before 90.
Yeah. He did. And he said in post-match it was fitness related. Like he asked for the sub.
Exactly. So I'm just saying it just weird. Toy Shirt should be the sub. I mean, you play players where they're most comfortable and where they can be effective. And Toy Shirt is the most comfortable and the most effective as a 9.5. He says it. He said it. Like, we can't keep reiterating this. We know this answer. I'm not going to ask it again. He doesn't need to answer it again. He's a 9.5. Which means he should be subbing in for whoever your 10 is or your 9 is. And because he can either play in the hole behind your 9, or he can act as a more ball playing 9, more kind of passing hold up playing 9 with a different 10.
He's best in a 4-4-2.
That's where you should, and
like in a very traditional 4-4-2.
Yeah.
I'm not talking like your FIFA, you change the tactics and your team dramatically plays it. But I'm talking a slightly different philosophy than what Critch has the boys playing right now. A more traditional 4-4-2.
Like he should be able to work well in a 4-2-3-1 with Hartle, who likes to step into shots at the top of the box. So
that's the idea they've been going for. But you've seen the defensive issues that are a result of that, and especially when you don't have. Honestly, you don't have a good right winger.
But haven't the last few times we've seen Hartle and Toy Shirt on the field together, Hartle's been in the double pivot, and Toy Shirt's been in the 10, in the attacking 3 line.
Yeah.
I'm saying Toy Shirt comes on for Klaus as the 9, and now you have and Hartle's his 10, and we know that Hartle can score goals. We know Hartle likes to step into shots. So the idea is the ball gets played up to Toy Shirt, and now he can then pass the ball off to Hartle for a shot. I think that's a fine system. That's a fine play setup in the 80th minute for this team. Toy Shirt wants to be in the center of the pitch. Play him in the center of the pitch. Bottom line there. The problem is right now they have a lot of guys who like playing in the center of the pitch. That's why the 5-3-2 had kind of crystallized as the best formation for Olaf Melberg, because they have a lot of guys who are more comfortable. The conversation we literally have just been having about Simon Bescher factors into this as well. They have a lot of guys who are more comfortable in the center of the pitch, and so the fix is set Toy Shirt off the bench in those 2 roles. Or here's your other fix: everything I was just talking about with Celio Pompeu. Put Celio at the right side. Put Marcel Hartle at the only other spot he is effective and comfortable, the left attacking 10. And now you have the center 10 open. And now Toysher can play a center 10. And he'll play a completely different kind of 10 than Hartle. But his kind of 10 as a 9.5 behind Klaus will work. Klaus wins the headers. And the ball falls.
This is a proven thing.
That's how he scored all his goals last year. That's literally, I think, every single goal. Strategy. I think it was 5 goals. I think 4 of them were literally Klaus or Bescher winning the ball and it falling to his feet, him running onto it and finishing a play.
That one against the Galaxy. Like, I think it was the first goal he scored or something like that against the Galaxy. That's like the most Cedric Toysher goal of all time. And he did this. If you go watch his film from previous teams, previous leagues, he's doing the same stuff. This is how he makes his money. And right now, he's like Rock's talking about. He's not being put in a very good position to succeed. And as a result, he's been, for lack of better words, almost useless in much of this season. And it's really not entirely his fault. I don't really think the majority of that, at least, is his fault. But I don't know. I agree. I think the traditional 4-4-2 is an idealized scenario that's not realistic with the roster that City has right now. So Rock's kind of solution to that, with Hartle playing that left attacking 10, I think is honestly the best option for this team going forward. Of course, you just played 2 teams that are very similar in Orlando and then Houston. So I get not changing the strategy there, but now you have a full week to rework things. I want to see Critchley make those kinds of adjustments as City will eventually travel to Salt Lake, I believe.
I know we're talking about the big picture, but looking back at the loss today, St. Louis City losing 1-0 down in Houston, falling to 3 wins, 6 draws, and now 11 losses in MLS play. I will say this is another game where it's hard to 100% criticize David Critchley in the plan, because the plan got screwed up so early. Because, a lot of it was the issue on Wednesday against a counterattacking team was getting torn apart in the middle. And it looks like they had solved that for the most part with Conrad Vollum and Alfie Morales in the middle. But as soon as Alfie Morales gets hurt, and again, it might look like it's going to be a longer term than exactly as long a term as we were worried about. Everything changes. And so the plan they had kind of gets thrown out the window, and they had to scramble. And so that's part of today. And I know we haven't been talking a lot about today in tonight's show, but that's another fact about today that I think was disappointing as you talk about them reworking things. Is I know we talked about the defense last week. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to talk about the offense this week because it was so bad. For me, that's a mistake. The conversation should be, until it's solved, the conversation for St. Louis City SC is about the midfield. And if you get solved very easily, if people get healthy, but right now I don't think that's going to happen. And that's why I'm also so honed in on the 6 conversation, is because everything happens in the midfield. You win and lose games there. And right now City is undoubtedly losing games in that part of the field.
Right. If you have Vollum and you have Durkin available for 90, you're in a better situation.
Yes.
But this team just really struggles without players like Leuven, Vollum, Durkin, what have you in the midfield. And it also really hurts Marcel Hartle's game, unfortunately, because he's forced to be not only the connector, but also like the receiving. He's passing and receiving and being the middleman all to himself. Like he's the whole midfield is what he's trying to do. And it's not effective. Obviously, we've seen his game has not been good. He's kind of sucked lately, and it's not really his fault.
No,
it's just really tough situation for this team. It's hard to watch.
Samuel Howe, wait a second. You're telling me it's wins, draws, losses in soccer, not wins, losses, draws? Oh my! I'm about to break your mind even more. You ready for this one? If you were to right now Google MLS standings, you would be a table will be pulled up that is listed as
it's like
wins, losses, draws.
Yeah.
FB reference.
No, it's wins, draws, losses. Wins, draws, losses.
I literally the one I Googled pulled up as wins, losses, draws. No joke.
Really?
FB ref does wins, draws, losses. If you go to the MLS website, it is listed as wins, losses, ties. It's not even, they call them ties on the MLS roster.
What are we doing
This
here?
is MLSsoccer.com has T's, not D's.
Bro, what are we doing
here? So it's funny, Samuel, how
Mickey Mouse League.
It's funny that you said that, Samuel, how because it's literally different websites will list it differently. I think at one point last year, ESPN listed it differently as wins, draws, losses, and then MLS and FBref had it as wins or wins, losses, draws on ESPN, and then wins, draws, losses on MLS.com and on FBref. It's insane. It's literally different on different rosters. Like I said, some use ties, some use draws. It's bananas. It's insane. We're living out here in a flipping jungle, my guy.
This is where we're at. This match was so uninteresting that we're sitting here analyzing the wins, draws, losses.
I've done this before. If you think I haven't, I've complained about this before because it got.
I believe you. You
because somebody bitched at me one time when I was doing a podcast, and I was like, "City's 3," and I didn't qualify it, and I said City's 3, 4, and 5. And they were like, "No, they're not. They're 3, 5, and 4."
Yeah,
and I was like,
"People, that pisses me."
And I was like,
so much.
"What are you talking about? They're this." And they're like, "You're wrong." And I go, "Oh, we're looking at different websites, and they list it differently." And I was like, "That's dumb." But you can't be mad at me for that one. Like, I don't know. I don't even know. So I guess wins, draws, losses should be standardized in my opinion.
I mean,
I feel like that makes sense. Although it's not American because I'm pretty sure when hockey had ties, it was wins, losses, draws, or wins, losses, ties.
I don't know.
And in fact, every American sport is that now because think about if the tie does randomly happen in the NFL, it's wins, losses, draws.
That can happen.
If you tie in the NFL, it's not if you go 6, 7, or I guess it would be you can't go 9 and 7 anymore. So yeah, if you go 9, 7, and 1. It's the last one's draw. So like in American sports, the last marker is
this draw in football. What are we talking about?
Did you not know you can get ties in American football?
No.
In professionals?
What are we talking about?
It's, you know what? I really want to give Will a lot of crap here, but at the same time, if you guys don't remember, there was a time in the NFL when the Eagles and the Bengals, it might have been the Redskins. I don't remember what team it was. I remember the Bengals were the opponent, but I'm forgetting which team it was as the other team because all I remember is that Donovan McNabb at the end of the game said, "I didn't know you could tie an NFL game." And at that point, Donovan McNabb had been in the league for like 10 years and almost won a Super Bowl. I think he might have been with the Redskins. I think he might have been with the Redskins.
He's just like me.
So even people who played the game didn't realize, yes, in the NFL, at the end of overtime, that's it. There's only one overtime in an NFL football game. It ends with a tie.
That's stupid.
You didn't know that?
No, I did not know that.
Okay. Listen, you really don't want to walk into this lion's den.
You're right. I want to talk about City.
You're saying that's stupid in a game where
stupid.
People are going through hundreds of car accidents every play. And yet we're talking about a sport where they willingly stop playing at the end of regulation. It's a lot
easier to score in football than it is, and more frequent to score in football than it is in soccer.
Why not just play an extra period in soccer? You don't even play an extra period in soccer is my point. You like football at least tries to play an extra period.
I'm not opposed to that.
Okay.
Honestly,
that's all I'm saying is
I'm not opposed to
that classic "don't throw stones in glass houses" situation is all I'm saying. We can't be calling out the NFL when we're talking about the MLS, my friend.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, a lot of American sports leagues in general face a lot of criticism for a lot of very valid reasons. So
that's not one of them. Yeah, so you can have draws in football. So yeah, Americans are used to wins, losses, draws as the format. And because we're soccer heads, we do wins, draws, losses, which makes sense to me because you get points. Because I think about it like how you get point. I think about it like I do points. Like you get 3 points. They have 9 points plus 6 points because I do the math.
Right.
And that's how I know how many points they have.
Right.
I don't want to do the math. If it does the other way around.
The math is pretty easy right now with how bad this team is. A shocking 15 points so far through 20 matches. Unbelievable.
Abo, how can we convert Joyner to a roster spot where he can play? Also, MLS rules are silly regarding this. Do we need to cut someone or wait for someone to leave during window? I guess yes to either of the last 2 questions. Yes to all 3 questions. I guess yes to all 4 questions.
To get Mekhi Joyner up, no, you don't need to cut anybody. All you have to do is give him a contract and have him put his signature on it. For a supplemental roster.
Oh, because he's already on the roster.
Yes, he's just listed off roster.
And that's only true for him and Tyson Pierce.
Correct.
Any other youth player would require a new contract.
A new contract, yes. And you do have 2 supplemental slots open though. Yes. So you could sign like another minimum wage player, $104,000 salary player without having in the summer window when the summer window opens. You could do that without having to sell anybody off. But senior roster, you have 1 slot with Horn leaving in 2 days, and that's it.
What is the exact mechanism for Joyner?
What do you mean?
Like to go from the supplemental roster to the
Lutz gives him a piece of paper and he signs.
And
That's it.
And they got to pay him.
They have to pay him $104,000 at least as league minimum. But I think he's already making that.
Is he already making that?
Yeah, I think he just has to be migrated and sign the contract.
So then, is there a logical reason he didn't? Okay, is there?
He'd get a slight pay raise. He's making $97,000.
Is there a logical reason they didn't play him instead of Brendan McSorley on Wednesday and give him that piece of paper on, I guess, July 23rd when everything opens? That's my birthday.
I don't know. Can
you think of a logical reason?
Joyner is really integral to the success of City 2, and they decided that since he's on fire there, let's not interrupt that and throw him into a dumpster fire. Let's instead let Brendan McSorley get an opportunity to at least show something.
Dude, who directed you to wrap Mekhi Joyner in bubble wrap?
Myself.
Okay, fair enough.
He's a young player. You got to protect your young talent. You don't
just wrapping the young kid.
I'm not going to throw Mekhi Joyner. Listen, he's the best player to come through our academy in terms of being, potentially ready to be an MLSer soon. So, I want to get value out of that at the very least. I'm not trying to just ruin this kid's career because we want to see more exciting soccer for a couple of days, even though we're not making the playoffs. It's pointless.
You and I have very different views of making a guy's dream come true.
Well, he's already made his debut.
I know, but
he's already played. He's gotten minutes. He knows he's gonna get a senior contract.
I don't know about you, but I would feel a lot better as a professional athlete if I was on the contract that allowed me to play whenever they wanted to, instead of the one that said we can play you 6 times and that's it, champ. I feel like I also, like, what is it going to be, a $25,000 bump? I also kind of would want that.
7, but yeah,
$7,000 still. I want my money. Pay to quote John Malkovich in his terrible accent. Pays a man his money.
With his parents. He's not doing anything with his money yet, except investing it and saving it.
Again, if I was 18.
No, I mean, I agree.
I want my damn money.
Listen, I'm 21. I want my damn money. Like, I'm just a guy. I get what you mean. I got
the new Ford Bronco.
Like, for him, he knows he's going to get that money. It's just, you wait a couple years, maybe you improve. You don't throw yourself in too early. Then you earn a bigger contract.
Well, okay. You know what? I'll take a very business way of looking at this one, which is
that's a new Harley.
And by the way, all Red Bull. Hey, Will, it's all Red Bulls. How did you not know there's draws in football? We call them ties, but yes. Here's the other thing. Here's why you play 18-year-olds. Because 18-year-olds are worth inevitably a lot more as prospects than 21-year-olds. And so you play Mekhi Joyner because in 2 years, him having 18 appearances this season and a couple of goals might be the difference between you getting another $2 or $3 million when you sell him at 21 years old. That's why you play 18-year-olds. That's why you don't put him in a situation. We don't know where his mental drive is. And they have a lot of people who work on that stuff. They have sports psychologists. They have people who work on those kind of things. So maybe that is a factor, and we will never know that unless it gets leaked away from things. But my point is like, that's another reason why you need to start playing 18-year-olds when they show a lot of promise in MLS Next Pro. It's the best chance you have to see them unless you're planning to loan them away. They're not going to do that. Also, loans apparently don't work in this league. You end up loaning them to Birmingham or whatever, and nothing happens. So
poor Miggy.
Play the 18-year-old because it can materially change things down the road in a big way.
I don't know. I mean, I agree with you. I just don't like this specific situation. I want him to play this season. Like, I want to make that clear. I've already gone through this whole tangent. I want him to play. I want him to get the supplemental slot. He's just not your starting right winger. He shouldn't be getting the situation, all these big, enormous minutes.
You keep saying the situation. The situation he's playing with a fairly talented roster that has a lot of issues, but none of those issues I think would directly affect the ability for him to play his game. You're playing him on the right side, which means he's linking up in play with Thomas Totland. Usually, conceivably, you'd have either Chris Durkin or Conrad Vollen playing at the center midi spot on that side.
Yeah, but why throw him into a team that's depressed and then he's around match?
And then he's around Klaus and Hartle. We're a week away from every report being about how happy and great the atmosphere at training is. We're 2 matches, yes, bad matches away from that being the storyline. So I feel like now being like, we're throwing him into this depressed and sad lineup. I don't think we can say that that's the case with Mekhi Joyner or this roster. He'd be surrounded by a lot of good, talented players on that right side. Because, I mean, look, I'm just talking about the player. I mean, he'd be cloistered in by Totland, Volum, Durkin, Hartle, Klaus. That's a good group of players that you're interacting with throughout the game more often than not. And I'm and like, I don't know if you can ask for just like those are all 4 or 5 of those players are objectively above average MLS players. I don't know if there's a lot of teams with that record who can play 18-year-olds in a better situation than that. I understand you're not like in everything you're saying in a vacuum, it's 100% correct. I'm just wondering. I'm confused as to why that's what you think. I'm confused why you see the situation here in St. Louis. It's undoubtedly not the best situation. There's a lot of good veterans that he's surrounded by, and we're only a week away from apparently everything at practice being pretty hunky dory.
What are you saying from that?
What do you mean? That's just, like, I mean, that's all the reporting we've gotten from people around St. Louis City from their interviews with the players.
Yeah.
It was going into last weekend's match. Going into the break was everybody's happy. We're and coming out of the break too. Everyone's smiling. The atmosphere at training is differently. How many times did we see people see those tweets and then pull out? Look how different it is since Olaf Miller.
Right.
And so saying this is a sad, depressed team, yeah, tonight they're probably pretty pissy, but I don't think overall this is a terrible locker room relative to the record. And that's another thing. You're right. You don't want to throw a guy in a bad situation, but in most times when you're this bad record-wise, your roster and the mentality is a lot worse. And teams make the mistake of putting 18-year-olds in that situation. But I don't think that would be the situation for Mekhi on this team in this moment.
That's fair. It's a fair point.
And it would alleviate a lot of other issues. But again, we could be talking about a completely dead topic because why the hell didn't he play on Wednesday? Why was it Brendan McSorley? Love Brendan McSorley, but
I thought he did well, by the way. Shout out Brendan McSorley for that.
But again, what we were just talking about player profiles and where guys make most sense to play. Brendan McSorley is a center forward.
They had him on right wing.
And Mekhi Joyner is literally a winger,
right?
Who excels playing striker, but who can literally play both wings. And that's what I think. And so it might be moot. Maybe they have completely changed their thought process on Mekhi. I don't think they have. He's a big time player. They didn't get a chance to use his 6th appearance the week prior because 2 weeks prior because he's playing with the U19s against Ukraine and things like that.
Right.
And he got an appearance there. And that's the other factor I think we have to think about again, he's one of the best U8 or yes,
U19.
Yeah, he's U19. U19. He's one of the best U19 players in the country. And while he's not dominating with that team, he was getting time with that team. And I think that's material as we talk about evaluation. Because dominating MLS Next Pro doesn't mean you are ready for MLS. But the problem is there's not much more you can see between those two things other than putting him out on loan, and they should not do that. Eggplant emoji. Weren't Hartel and Toyshirt signed ahead of the transfer window opening last year? Any chance it happens again? So we might have something to be excited about soon. So the reason that they were signed ahead of the window is because when your contract's expiring in the 6-month window that your contract's expiring in world football, you can negotiate a new contract with a new team inside of that 6-month window. That is both the cases with Cedric Toyshirt and Marcel Hartel. So what you can take from the lack of reports so far this year is one of 3 things. One, they've locked up the leaks on the team a little bit, and the reporting's not there. 2, they are pursuing more players who are right now under contract and therefore wouldn't be free agent signings. Or 3, they're going to have a quiet summer. One of the 3 things is probably why we haven't heard things, and we'll find out in a few weeks which one of those 3 things is the reason why.
I think it's a combination of the first 2. It's not going to be a quiet summer. I think the only possible way it's a quiet summer is if the market is really just that bad right now, and prices on these player transfers are just absurdly high. the profiles of the players available don't match what City needs. That's the only possible way that City are quiet this summer. There's going to be outgoing transfers or even potentially a contract buyout. That's always in the realm of possibility with Alm and Nielsen, especially since they'd never play. But even players like Ustrak potentially are options to transfer out. So players will be leaving this roster 100% come the summer, unless we get something out of nowhere, because you never know. Like with Alfredo Morales coming out, holding his shoulder, it could be a dislocated shoulder, it could be a collarbone, it could be anything. Like that just it reminds me of Celio Pompeu with his freak injury, and Tomas Ustrak, similar situation. When you get a season-ending injury, it opens up a roster slot. It's like that player is just taken off your roster and you can sign somebody. You can even fill that international slot if they're an international. So, there's ways that this team could, obviously I don't want a season-ending injury. I'm obviously, I'm just saying things happen and it's not going to be a quiet summer. This team's going to have people leaving. This team's going to have people coming in. There's no doubt about that. It's just a matter of who and when, are these short-term or long-term signings? Are we going younger? Are we trying to compete in 3 to 4 years, building with a bunch of younger players? Or are we trying to compete in 2026? This ownership group wanted to make the playoffs. Very, very clear goal. 2025, we will make the playoffs on a newspaper like it was some big revelation. And in 2025, that has not happened. It's far from happened. So now you're looking at 2026 with a decent roster, a lot of injuries. So is the goal, let's kind of rebuild and kind of reset because this roster is too hurt. It's not good enough. Or is the goal, obviously we had an unlucky season, we're hurt. Let's reinforce and invest more. And then in 2026, we'll have a good season. We'll make the playoffs, maybe make a deep run. So for me, if I'm ownership, you're starting to lose your season ticket holders and some of your fans. I'm investing everything in 2026. This is your end all be all for ownership. The honeymoon phase is over. It's time for this team to be a serious playoff threat if they want to maintain the hype in the city. There's always going to be the diehard fans. There's always going to be the ones that are always going to have season tickets. In those types of situations, people are always going to want to come spend a Saturday at the park. Those things won't change, but you're not going to sell out, a mediocre matchup anymore with this team in 2026. And you're not going to have the same ticket prices. You're not going to sell as much in revenue and merchandise and all these other avenues for the team to make money if you don't compete in 2026. And at the end of the day, this is a business and you got to win to make money. Yep. So for me, I think it's not going to be a quiet summer window. They're going to invest in 2026 and we'll see some of that come through this summer.
One of the issues there is going to be just the lack of roster slots. Brian Royce, I don't think we'll have a big summer window, not enough roster slots. No one is going to take our wounded warriors made of glass.
You'd be surprised. That's all I'll say.
That's one thing. And I think another thing is just it's going to be kind of like a hooker by crook situation because opening up those roster spots, and we got one opening up with Horn. One of these injuries could open up a second one. Opening up a third one, if it's the end all, that could be the line between Lutz being this director of sporting in 2026. So right. if that's what they got to do, I feel like Lutz is going to find a way to do it because his job's on the line.
And you have one,
and this summer is going to be
like
and this summer is the last chance he has to save it. So he's going to want to make some moves for it.
Yeah, I think it'll be very eventful. I think this rumor of the U19 Polish center or left back is probably not going to happen, but those are the types of things we're going to start seeing, every couple of days with this City team, because there's a lot of positions. They're going to be making a lot of calls to a lot of agents, a lot of GMs around the world, because there's a lot of positions that City are going to be interested in buying or upgrading or even selling. Guys like Alm and Nielsen and Ustrak and Silva, and maybe even you're looking into a transfer for Klaus if you can find the right bid. So there's going to be a lot of noise. The question is, what's going to actually go through?
That's always the key question. A lot of noise you got to sift through. Don't lose the forest through the trees. Got another cliche for me?
I don't.
Jesus Christ Almighty! Get that brain working a little bit faster. You need something from you. How about an idiom? How about an axiom? Jesus Christ.
Rock, you're just throwing out the thesaurus at me at this point. What are we doing here?
So we didn't do a lot.
How about an onomatopoeia?
How about an onomatopoeia? Honk. Is that an onomatopoeia? Right? It's spelled like it sounds. Right? Yeah. Honk. Bam. Pow. Boom. At least I got one
This
quicker than you did.
City Central on STL Sports Central.
He really wanted that to work, and I had him.
I know.
I hesitated a little bit.
I was making fun of you for throwing all those words.
It was a stutter step, but I finished it.
Okay.
You know, one of my favorite. You know, what my favorite words is the adjective form of onomatopoeia is onomatopoetically. It's a great freaking word.
That is a fantastic. Word.
I
might have to add that to my vocabulary.
Onomatopoetically, add it to your vocabulary.
How do you onomatopoetically do something?
That's a good question.
You spoke onomatopoetically, as in you were saying "pow." Is that like the only way that word can be used?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's the one way you could have used it. I'm really proud of you right now.
English lessons.
You absolutely, I mean, just 60-yard through ball right down the middle, right under the striker's foot.
We're there.
You got there.
Klaus finished it.
Well, let's not get too carried away. A lot of talk about the future of City. Not a lot of talk about tonight because that was a bummer of a game. The offense didn't do a lot. The defense, honestly, isn't even the reason they got scored on the one time they did. So we'll have some more thoughts about that, though, from this week. Later on in Boots on the Ground, coming up later on this week, right here on STL Sports Central. Also, we'll have the live audio-only version on the Lou Information Station from 3 to 4 p.m. on Friday. But, of course, always check in here on City Central Postgame. Before we go, I want to tell everybody about our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. St. Louis fans, we are deep into the season. And if you're like me, and you are like me because you're here, you're locked into every pitch, pass, play, and through ball. And that's why we've teamed up with DraftKings to bring you Pick 6, the all-new way to play daily fantasy sports. Right now, all new customers who play just $5 will get $50 in bonus picks. That's 10 extra picks to keep the action going all week long. It's easy to start, fun to follow, and gives you a whole new way to stay connected to the game. Right now, the best way to play is go to the Cardinals games. They're facing off against some left-handed pitchers coming up in the next few days. So take the under, take the less part. You're either picking more or less. Make sure you're picking less on pretty much whatever Cardinals offensive stat you want, because they right now cannot hit lefties to save their lives. So that's the way to play right now if you're a Cardinals fan playing with DraftKings Pick 6. Make sure you download DraftKings Pick 6 app today and use code STL Sports right there on the screen. Code STL Sports. Play $5 and get $50 in bonus picks when you sign up only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
One last point to make before we head out here, Will. It's just the quick turnaround is fascinating to me because, again, everyone was so happy after that first win. Everyone was locked in. Lutz, I love you, Lutz, but maybe don't make the proclamation that he's staying the whole year and he's going to be in consideration for the head coaching job that fast.
There's nothing wrong with that for me.
No, but it didn't play well. I mean, it played very well among the fans, but the fact that it happens on Sunday and then this is the 6 days after it happens, this is the 6 days.
That is true.
That's all I'm saying. Listen, hindsight's 2020. You didn't know it was going to happen this way, but he just could have not said that.
But all you do is give a little bit of security or a sense of security to your fan base and your players. And
he gave people hope, Will, and then look what happened this week.
He didn't say that David Critchie was going to lead us to the promised land in 2025 like a beautiful golden leprechaun. They just said that he might.
I'm not following a leprechaun anywhere. They're tricky. You don't want to follow a leprechaun. That's God. You got to learn these things.
That's the point.
These young kids are going to get tricked.
That was the point.
These young kids are going to get tricked. That's fair. But the reason why I'm pointing out the short term is that I'm seeing a lot of people make complaints. Like they were expecting that everything that was problematic was just Olaf Melberg and the lack of a scheme that they wanted him to play.
Right.
There's a lot of people out there who seem to think that was the only issue. And I think they're getting a little bit of a rude awakening over the last week or so. And I think a lot of the things we said about why what was happening in the first few months of the season and the realities of what was happening, Like I saw somebody today say it's just so unfair that Critch has only had one game with a fully healthy roster. Just unironically,
did you look at Melberg's?
Like just unironically, like it's so unfair that Critch doesn't get healthy players. Yeah, it's a bitch, ain't it?
The snowman would.
Guess what? Bradley Carnell would agree.
Yeah,
and so would Olaf Melberg. Yeah, that's how it works.
The only coach who ever had it was 2023 Carnell. I mean, not even all of 2023.
No, it fell off at the
end of 2024 Hackworth. That's it.
And how did Hackworth get there?
By getting players in the summer window.
Entire half in the entire first half of 2024 being broken by injuries.
Right.
It's insane. So that like that, I'm starting to see that kind of stuff, and I was like, my God, just the hopium people. I know Will was on it, and we detoxed him
Come
fast.
on now.
We literally made jokes about it on the podcast about how you were talking about playoffs after those first two games. You were talking about playoffs.
Just when statistically possible, it's nice to at least acknowledge that it exists. If I was going to bet on it, I would have bet against us making the playoffs probably around before Melberg even got fired.
He said playoffs. And that's that worried me. And that's all I'm saying. It worried me when you said playoffs, and you did in fact
attack my credibility, Rock.
You did in fact say playoffs. That's all I'm saying. Did you or did you not talk about the playoffs like they had a chance? Yes, sure. You're right. Mathematically, they had a chance. But did you point that out to the listeners?
Yeah.
Well, then you're culpable.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say about that. Just
negative Nelly Rock.
I don't think. Again, am I being negative or am I simply being realistic? Because I feel like a lot of what I'm saying right now is proving that I'm just being realistic.
I think it's a combination of both. I think you can acknowledge that the possibility is there and that it, there's always, a way when it's statistic or when it's mathematically possible. Obviously, at this point, it's still mathematically possible, but I wouldn't say there's a way.
Okay.
But I'm just saying you don't always have to say, you don't always have to lean on the, it's not going to happen side.
I will not be talked out of my realism by some.
I'm not trying to talk you out of it. I'm just saying to acknowledge it.
By some rosy-cheeked.
Okay.
Just rosy-cheeked, perfect skin, not a dimple on it.
What are we doing?
Not a white hair and anywhere to be seen. I will not. No child is gonna tell me the world might not be as ugly as you think it is. The world is exactly as ugly as I think it is, and this team's just as bad as I think they are. Okay, that might have been that one.
Rock, I think you're getting a little. This is no longer about City. This is something personal is going on.
That one might have been a little bit too harsh.
I think it's time for you to go home and take a nap, buddy.
Yeah. Amy says it. There's the Rock we know, we in love, angry. I'm not angry. I'm just.
You're angrily saying you're not angry.
I'm just trying to point out that I feel like I'm being realistic. And I feel like a lot of people out there in the world are still living a little pie in the sky. And that's got me a little worried. Samuel House says, don't destroy his Pollyannish views. No. I'm here to destroy those views. I'm here to wreck that kind of stuff because it's dangerous.
He's here to do it because it's torture for him. He doesn't like to feel anything.
We let him get.
He likes to bottle it all up inside.
We let Will get high on the hopium and look at this. Look at this relapse. Look,
huffing the hopium. That's what we were talking about. You remember?
Yes, I know. This is my entire point. Is that you were talking? That's what we were talking about? And look what happened. Look at what he's relapsing now. Vomiting the word playoffs.
I'm about to walk off this set.
Shaking through.
I'm about to walk off
this entire show. This is what happens. This is what detox looks like. It's ugly, but it's necessary, people. And if you guys need it, I'll be running a clinic. Again, it's gonna be ugly. You're gonna vomit. It's going to be rough, but you need it, St. Louis.
What are we
That's all I'm
talking
saying.
about here?
The Soccer Detox. It's a new podcast name, according to Samuel Howe.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
We're just having some fun talking about a really bad game.
Now, if you want to listen to me torture Rock even more, you can do so by watching Boots on the Ground on the radio on Fridays at 3, actually. If you
can't watch it on the radio. You can watch it on YouTube, though. STL Sports Central. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell button. You can leave. It's fine. I can close this thing out. This has been the City Central post game on STL Sports Central. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure, again, you hit that bell button so you know whenever we go live. After all the Cardinals games, they're rolling right now after another comeback victory tonight. I wish City knew what they were doing when it came to that kind of thing. Anyhow, that is it for STL Sports Central. We will be back next week. In the meantime, we'll have Boots on the Ground coming up later on midweek. Thank you to everybody in the chat. You guys were absolutely incredible. Have a great rest of your night, St. Louis. I'm sure it'll be better than that soccer game.